Hello, everyone. My name is Linda Callahan. I am on the board of directors at Mariemont Players and also an honored member of the recently formed Inclusion and Diversity Committee at Mariemont Players. So as part of our committee, we are presenting some diverse views, experiences, and initiatives in our community. And today, I am thrilled to be speaking with Ericka Simmons. Ericka is a rock star in the Mariemont community, if you ask me. She is the principal at Mariemont Elementary, and she is the director of equity and inclusion in the Mariemont School District. Ericka, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Linda. This is just an honor. Thank you for the invitation. I am delighted to be here and having this conversation with you.
Well, I'm so happy to have you. I just think you're an amazing person, and I'm dying for you to tell our audience how long you've been in your positions and how you came to be in that position of Director of Equity and Inclusion.
Absolutely. Well, I am certainly humbled to be able to serve as the principal of Mariemont Elementary School. This is coming on the end of my 8th year here at Mariemont Elementary School. And again, it's just an honor to serve in that role. This past summer, in June 2020, I was recently named the Director of Equity and Inclusion, a brand new title and role, but not brand new really to me, as back in really 2015, 2016, during that school year, the superintendent approached me about creating a committee, a Global and Cultural Perspectives Committee. And so it was at that time I really began leading and facilitating conversations and work within that committee. And so again, this summer, just after all of the last couple of years and leading and facilitating that, really taking it to the next level of creating this title and position of Director in Equity and Inclusion. So again, an honor to have been selected to be named that. And so this particular year, I've been serving also in that role.
So I'm so curious, what started the Global Initiative Committee that the superintendent put together in 2015? What did he feel the need was for that?
So prior to that, our superintendent really began leading our district from his entry into this community and serving in the role of superintendent. He began discussions around the creation of an instructional vision, kind of a mission and a structure to have in place that would really lead and direct us in our work moving forward. And that turned out to be our Destination 2026. And it is a very comprehensive plan and vision. And within that plan, we developed something called highly engaged student characteristics. And as a part of those characteristics, we had the vision and goal of wanting our students to be globally competent and to begin to build understanding of diverse perspectives, of other perspectives. And so in order to do that, again, a part of the vision was to develop this committee to begin looking at our district through this lens of, are we globally competent? And do we even understand what that means to be globally competent?
Right.
So that was the beginning. That was kind of the vision, and it really has grown from there.
And the percentage of diversity in Mariemont is approximately what?
Approximately, so with our number of students, a little over 1,600 students, we have 90%, 92% or so that are white, about 3% multiracial. We have a very small percentage of African-American students and Asian students. We have about 7.9% of students who are what's considered to be economically disadvantaged. So, diversity, I think, when we think of our community and our district, is more centered around really socioeconomic status often.
Yeah. Which provides certainly viable different perspectives, but not necessarily a broad range of cultural perspectives that I guess your committee is going to be trying to educate your students in. So What have you guys done so far? What have you done to start opening these children's minds to different perspectives?
With our work as a committee, we really have focused mostly at this particular time on staff development.
Okay.
We've spent quite a bit of time the last couple of years really gaining some understanding, as I mentioned, around what it means to be globally competent. What are we saying when we say that we want our students to be globally competent? We've also referred to a culturally proficient continuum, and really looking at practices maybe that are on more of the destructive end of things, and maybe we're not knowing that that's what's happening, versus moving more to the right side of the continuum, which is more around the proficient and being more inclusive. So we've spent a lot of time providing professional development, bringing in professional developers, as well as developing our committee members to serve as resources for our district. I would say this particular year, with some of our initiatives that we've launched as a committee, we have just begun to bring in our students, and that is through one particular action plan that we set about accomplishing this year, is establishing a student voices group, grades 5 on up through 12. So in all 4 of our buildings, we have successfully launched our very first student voices Student Voices Leadership Group, which is kind of a social justice student alliance. And we've had teacher leaders kind of leading those discussions and really gaining their perspective of their world, of their community. Again, applying that lens of awareness, of equity, of inclusion, and hearing from their voices to learn from them.
So are you surprised at how the kids are responding? Do you feel that they have a greater perspective than you thought they had, or are they really needing to be educated in a variety of views? Because young people, they're so different than when we were growing up. They really do have some opportunity of different perspectives through social media that we didn't have when we were kids.
Absolutely.
So what's been surprising or fascinating from this voices that you've heard from the young people?
I think what you just asked, as far as it's been really a mix of their perspectives. They know way more than what we maybe understand because of, as you mentioned, that access to social media. They are seeing things play out in their world, in our world, as we all are as of late, right there in front of them. And so they have a lot more questions. They have a lot more to kind of to process and to build understanding. And it's quicker, it's instant. They can see it in real time. And so that is very different than maybe when we were growing up, and maybe we saw it on the news if our parents allowed us to watch the news. And so with that, what I've often said is the world constantly gives us content we're like the first responders for the happenings in the world. Things will happen, and then we have to be prepared. And so our students come in with questions, very curious, but at the same time, through our student voices, we're finding that we still need to provide some education. One of the topics in particular that seemed to be a topic of discussion at all 4 of the buildings was around building understanding around microaggressions, what that looks like, what that sounds like. Oftentimes when we say, I'm not trying to offend you, but
watch out what comes next, right?
Yeah, building that awareness, providing that professional development that we've received as a staff, and really being able to provide that to our students who've asked to participate in this group.
So have you guys done anything with curriculum to change some of the perspectives? And tell me a little bit more about the microaggressions. How have you addressed that? Is it through just bringing up the topic, or has there been some books around that, or how have you addressed that?
Yeah, so there haven't been any books. And so the Student Voices advisors really have done their own research, just again, finding different resources, but it's played itself out mostly in providing examples, but also through like role playing or scenarios.
Gotcha.
really relates, is a great way to kind of connect with the students when they can actually kind of play out maybe something happening out on the playground that they've witnessed or they've heard. So once you give them examples, they kind of take it and run with it, and they come up with so many more, examples to work with. And so, yeah, so that's been, but as far as the curriculum piece, as a district, we have not begun to really dig into or to have kind of a formal look at our district. Our district's curriculum. We have, however, spent a lot of time this particular year on conducting what we've called an equity audit. And so we have been taking a very close look at our practices, getting into classrooms and making observations, applying this lens of equity and inclusion. We've conducted surveys and focus groups. And so we're really looking forward to that compilation of data and information that we've gathered to help guide our next steps, whether that be, looking at spaces where we can bring in maybe more diverse text or read aloud books, whether that may be just different practices. So we'll be using that information to help guide that. But as far as curriculum, we have not had really that kind of formal look at our curriculum. We have, however, I want to share at the elementary as part of one of our kind of attempts to bring in some more diverse literature. This particular year, we launched a quarterly read aloud book at both elementary schools. And something we learned, we've always had an emphasis on kindness and treating others with respect and responsibility. But just we've learned quickly through our work and professional development that we need to take kindness up a notch. That, we need to also have some action around our kindness. Maybe, bringing something to someone's awareness as a part of that action. So these picture books, quarterly picture books, have allowed us to have more of those types of conversations around just being more inclusive and building some understanding around equity.
Right. And I'm thinking when you're saying that about kindness and bringing it up a level, that's so interesting, because I might think I'm being perfectly kind and you might take it in a completely different way. So kindness is kind of what I think is kind and not necessarily what you think is kind. And so that's really interesting to think about that in a different way, because if we really are trying to see another person's perspective, I need to see another person's perspective and not just, well, thought I was being kind, like it's kind in my family, maybe it's just not kind in your family, and I need to respect that. Mm-hmm. Is that what you guys are kind of doing?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
that is so fascinating. Yeah.
And ultimately, as a part of our vision and our goal, we want to ensure that there are safe learning and, inviting spaces for all of our students, no matter background, no matter how a student may identify, no matter, what religious beliefs they may have, whatever that may be, for us to really bring respect to the surface and bring that kindness to the next level. That's what we're feeling like we need to ensure that we're growing that lens and building that awareness around those differences that exist.
Yeah, because if they get that now, just imagine how they will be on the global stage, that they really will be able to be inclusive and perform better because they understand where other people are coming from.
Absolutely.
How are the parents dealing with all of this? Are they involved in this committee or in this change?
Yeah, thank you for that question. When we first started our Global and Cultural Perspectives Committee, we started with a number of parent voices, from our different communities. And in the beginning, it was kind of a little choppy. Whenever you start a committee, you come to the table and you think, is something wrong? Did something happen? Why do we have this?
The punishment committee.
Yeah. It turned out to be, just great conversations as we were thinking about, we think maybe we're inclusive, but are we really?
Yeah.
And so just allow parents to provide that perspective. And then after that, we shifted to more just internally working with staff. But this particular year, through, as I mentioned, our surveys, we have been gathering the voices of our parents. We offered the opportunity for there to be to participate in a focus group session. So we did have some parents participate in that. And also newly formed, really independent of the district, but in an effort to support the work that we're doing, there has been this newly formed parent equity group.
Wow.
A parent reached out to me and said, we want to be a part of the work. We want to, get involved as a parent. And so it really has been this independent group that has been forming and norming and just trying to figure things out, but they've been meeting on a very regular basis. So that is encouraging.
That is encouraging. Wow. Yeah, because if you don't have the parent buy-in and the parents are the ones teaching the children the perspective taking. So I'm so happy to hear that. I mean, that's exactly what we're hoping for with our audience, is to really, expand their perspectives through theater. I mean, do you see a place for theater in all of this?
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about theater, you think about the arts, music, whatever it may be, there are so many outlets and opportunities for there to be education around diverse artists. But even if I think of theater and the stage right there in front of us, you have this opportunity to highlight stories, to bring some diverse voices to the stage, for us to be present there in the audience to learn from in that theater form.
Absolutely. And we really are hoping that our audiences respond in the same way your parents have, that they want to get involved. They want to see different stories. They're aware of the change in our culture and they want to learn about it. They're interested. And I'm hoping they are, because we are presenting for the first time this year, this season, a African-American story directed by an African-American man. So I'm really excited to have that in our season. And I'm hoping that, people will learn something in the same way they learn from all the plays that we put on. The different perspectives. I really do believe that theater is a wonderful lens for learning different perspectives in a safe environment. So you can really see where other people are coming from through their story. So this has just been fantastic speaking with you. I'm really excited that you're getting to do this in your district. I mean, if parents are involved, that is just, for me, you're almost halfway there, because that's where the parents will direct the children and the children will treat each other the way the parents teach them to act.
Absolutely.
And I just think that's amazing.
Heard from parents who have said, we want to be brought alongside with the conversation that you're having. And so that, again, that has been encouraging. But, as I always share also with this work, it can be prickly.
Sure.
Kind of the opposite of, nope, everyone's kind of the same and we're good. And so I think it's the perspective, right? It's building the understanding that we are all entering this journey and this conversation at different places at very diverse perspectives. So I think.
So would you say that's sorry to interrupt, would you say that's the biggest obstacle then? Yeah.
Not the biggest, but it is, I would say definitely an obstacle that must be acknowledged.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Not everyone agrees with having these discussions, but I would say, an obstacle oftentimes is just, as I mentioned, as far as happenings in the world, whereas you think you're making progress and then something happens and it seems to kind of take you back a bit. And so that it's a constant kind of move forward, step back, move forward. But as long as there are efforts to continually push forward, that's what's important. That you
absolutely. So I don't want to be too nosy, but you said it wasn't the biggest obstacle. Is there a bigger obstacle that you can tell us about?
Well, that's what I was saying. I would say the biggest obstacle is because that things will continually happen.
Okay.
Yes, that what I would say is the biggest obstacle as far as this type of work.
Okay.
And these types of conversations, because if we think about just systemic racism has been around for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And so for many people, it's kind of the question of why haven't we made more progress? Great progress has been made, but there's still so much more to be done. And that's, I would say kind of, I think of obstacles and sometimes hurdles. It's wanting to get to what is a perceived finish line, but there is no finish line. There's no, it's a constant.
Yes.
There's no way that we can know everything there is to know about all of the different people, all of the different, kind of isms that exist. And so but the willingness to learn
Yes.
and the willingness to be open is what will continue to push the work forward.
And the willingness to educate.
Absolutely.
And open the kids' minds and open our audience members' minds and open each other's minds. I mean, education, so that, because a lot of us don't get to travel overseas. I mean, we live in our world, and sometimes our world is our community, and that's about it. And so I really applaud you and I respect you so much for bringing this to your community. And I'm really excited that your community seems to be so supportive of this, especially with your superintendent and your parents.
Yeah, thank you.
I wish you so much luck. I'm really excited for you, and I'm excited for the kids of Mariemont that people are taking the time out to teach them these
Absolutely.
perspectives. So, and you're a fantastic leader to be doing this at the helm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sounds incredible.
It's an honor, and there is incredible support. But just again, the wonderful vision of our superintendent, and even the support that we receive through our board of education has been tremendous. And so I think that is what has helped this work to be successful.
Fantastic. Ericka, thank you so much for speaking with me today. It's really been an honor.
My pleasure. Thank you.